The Hilma Hooker is a 236-foot long Dutch freighter. She was christened in May of 1951 as the Midsland. Over the next 2 decades, the ship would change hands and names several more times. In July of 1975, she was known as the William Express out of Panama when she sank for the first time off the coast of the Dominican Republic. Eventually, she was raised and put back into commission and renamed yet once again as the Anna C. 9 years later, she was reported to have been sailing off the coast of Bonaire, where she was faced with engine problems and had to be towed into port. At this point, she had already received the infamous name Hilma Hooker. Once in port, the authorities asked the crew for their customs paperwork, to which they could not produce. When the port authorities ran the ship through Interpol as a suspect for drug trafficking, they found that Interpol and the FBI had been tracking her for months due to her suspicious activities. Now in the hands of the authorities, a thorough search was conducted and local welders were called in to cut out sections of the bulkhead to see if in fact she had been concealing any contraband. Sure enough, behind a false bulkhead, they discovered more than 12 tons or 25,000 pounds of marijuana. In June of 1984, the crew was arrested and the ship was seized. At this point, the Hilma Hooker had become evidence in an active investigation of the Netherlands, and if the owners were found not guilty, the ship would need to be returned in the same condition in which it was confiscated. The ship remained abandoned pending the investigation, which meant no one was tending to the bilge pumps that had been pumping the leaky hull water out just to keep her afloat at the pier. With the very real possibility that the Hooker could sink right there at the pier, it was decided to relocate her to an area of the island that, if she were in fact to sink, she would not crush the coral reef or make for a navigational hazard. Within a week of being moored at her new location, her leaky hull and inoperable bilge pumps proved to be too much to keep her buoyant. On the 12th of September 1984, the Hilma Hooker began to sink. Eyewitnesses reported that it took less than 2 minutes for her to slip below the surface, where she would come to rest on her starboard side in the scuba diver's paradise. She now lies in her final resting place in a recreational area on a bed of white sand between 2 reefs. Thankfully, the Hooker had very little fuel or oil on board, so she did not pollute the surrounding waters. Rumors have surrounded so many aspects of this vessel over the years, from the day she arrived in the Dutch Caribbean to the day she sank. Some even suggested that she was sunk deliberately by impatient scuba divers. One thing that is certain, above all others, is that the Hilma Hooker was found concealing 25,000 pounds of marijuana behind a false bulkhead, and after sinking for a second time, she has found her final resting place for scuba divers to enjoy off the coast of Bonaire. $25,000 pounds of marijuana was burned right there on the island of Bonaire. If you ever see a license plate from Curacao, you will see the slogan, "One Happy Island." They must have been downwind.